Well, good morning. All hail the Blue Trooper Empire. Salute. Um, Finally got my Max's Models coffee mug, and if anybody wants to get one of these, all you gotta do. My wife got this at Walmart. All you gotta do is Walmart online. Just download the logo, which I put on the Facebook page, or I can email it to you, or just click the screen. Anyway, you send it to them. They make the cup and send it to you. Oh. Yum. Anyway, oh, by the way, this logo was actually came up with my wife's niece down in Venezuela is a college education. She's a graphic artist. She got her degree in graphic arts design. She made that for me, and a couple others that I'll put them all on the Facebook page. So, kudos to her, Oriana Designs, and I'll stick her little logo thingy on the end of it, and give her a shout out for that. Thank you, sweetie. I love it, and it's a nice big mug. Friday man will drink big strong coffee. What is it with me and these fake accents, man? At first it's French, now it's Russian. Well, I was chewing on the W, more like Ukrainian. Do you guys hear a bell ringing? It's going away. I guess somebody's cell phone went off. That or somebody was asking last night about acrylics versus lacquer paints and enamels, and I meant to do a little research, but I was up so late I didn't get around to it, and I'm not 100% sure. I actually need to look at the difference between lacquers and enamels, if they're the same thing or if there's a difference in them. I have been using a couple of what are labeled as lacquers recently, and they seem to bite like enamel paints, but they seem to dry a lot quicker. So I'm not sure that, well, but then they're metallizer types, and those like the engine exhaust, and they have always, I've noticed those usually dry pretty quickly. But I know most of y'all guys already know this, but acrylic paints pretty much lay on top of plastic. Of course, they're water soluble and they dry very quickly. And if you, I've seen folks, and I've done it myself, who like to paint canopy frames with them, because if you color outside the lines a little bit, a toothpick is all you need for cleanup. You can make real nice canopies with them without masking it off. But the enamels, they literally bite into the plastic. I think Fine Skill Modeler did an article a while back on these, and they are the reason they adhere so well is because they actually kind of chew into the plastic a little bit, and I guess it's an acid compound. I'm not sure. And of course, acrylics mixed with water, and the lacquers and enamels, you have to use a stripper, thinner, or mineral spirits, or at least acetone. And I've done some damage to models trying to strip off the enamel paint by, I don't know if the paint was on too thick or I used too much stripper, but I wound up roughing the surface pretty badly. You can clearly see that the paint had done its job, and of course it takes much longer to dry. My understanding is most of the hardcore guys who are really meticulous, when they use an enamel paint, they let things dry overnight. Now, I know they say 2 hours, but I've managed to handle a model after 2 hours and leave a thumbprint. I think that's one of the nice things about building a tank. If you put a nasty thumbprint and have to file it off or something, it's a tank. They have pretty rough surfaces generally, and if it's so ugly you can't cover it up, you just like, that's a nice place for some extra track. I only built a couple of airliners. You guys may have seen that 727 in the window, and DC-9. And I did Republic and Eastern Airlines because I used to ride on those when I was in the Army. Those were my rides home. So we tend to like what we build, what we're familiar with. But if you notice, though, the decals on the tail hockey sticks are a little bit short of the stabilizer. That's because the models and the decals are just a tiny bit off scale. I think the DC9 was 1 to 125 or something. I forget offhand, but it was an older kit. Anyway, but I was like, yeah, good enough. And but I think I made my own decals for one, and the Eastern decals I bought. Maybe I bought the decals. I don't recall. It's been so long since I did it. But now that I got the laser printer, making decals goes a lot nicer because the inkjets, you have one shot to put that thing on, and if you didn't get it right, of course, the water dissipated the colors. But personally, though, getting back to paints, I use acrylic paints and enamel paints depending on what I'm doing. Frankly, what color I have. But I have to admit, I think fine acrylics generally just easier to work with, but there's some things they're just not good for. And I think most people would agree that when you're using gloss colors, I think the enamels look a little better. But what do you think about that? And but some paints won't mix with each other. There are some paints, of course, some will react with certain kinds of plastic. I my wife had me spray paint. She does the dolls, and she makes a lot of her own costumes and everything. And one day she said, "Can you paint these shoes green for me?" And I did, and I didn't give a second thought. Shot them green, and we went back 3 days later, and they were still tacky. They know it's one of those. It was one of those rubbers that had a reaction to the enamel paint, and they really never dry. They were always tacky to the touch. And that 1/12 scale astronaut that came out of the Mercury is more of a rubber, and I painted it silver, and it never really it's been so many years now that you can touch it, and it's really not a problem. But for a couple of years, it was tacky to the touch. And what was it? Was the C119? I think I was working on when I wanted to paint that one like the one that was on display at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, where I was in the Army. They had up since the 101st used to jump out of C-47s and C-119s. They put them outside of the Fort Campbell Museum and the 101st Airborne Division Museum. And we just had it eventually. While I was there, they got that old H-54 Cheyenne out there, and one of only two in the world. The other one's at Fort Rucker, Mother Rucker. But anyway, they had some other stuff on display, but outside in the garden. But I found some pictures online of that C-119, and I got the old Aurora kit, the old vintage kit, and that one actually I got it on the website, Fine Scale Modeler. So the got all the decals and everything, and numbers and stuff, and marked it up just the same way. Now, just as a side note, the one at Fort Campbell's actually an old Marine Corps C-119, but it was all they could find in a boneyard, so they painted up in Air Force colors. And I tried a couple of techniques that failed to paint it. And unfortunately, I think I mixed an acrylic. I think I tried it once with an acrylic and it didn't look good. And then I think I tried to paint over it, and the two paints reacted. They bubbled up. They did some wild stuff, and it didn't do that kind of slightly different plastic they used back then any favors either. So. Of course, this isn't my lost photographs, but actually I took some pictures of it, and it was not ugly. I mean, it was ugly. It was not good, but I managed to eventually strip it all off, and then the stripper chewed into the plastic, and I really just made that a lot more complicated than it had to be because of the paint mix. I would recommend, if you're going to use paints from different companies or different types, you may want to take a look-see. I'm sure 5 minutes online will tell you whether or not they'll react. There's several articles about that. If I had the energy, I'd have read one last night before I came here, but I could have had more information for you. But I'm sure there's so many examples out there that would just, it's easier just for you to look it up yourself. I usually use just Tamiya and testers. Those are my two go-tos. The Model Master, um, partly because that's what everybody carries. Painting is one reason I don't build many airliners. In a military airplane with camouflage, or a tank, or something like that, or a Jeep, you can hide some blemishes, between the complex color patterns and stuff. But airliners, because everything's so shiny and neat and clean, it's all long, straight lines. The hardest thing for me to draw is a straight line. And so um, it's it's really tricky for me to do an airliner. And I know a lot of it's decals, but one of the trickiest things I ever did was when I was building a model ship. Forget if it was which one it was, but it was to get a perfectly straight line down the whole ship for the hull when it's red on the bottom. And I was like, this is harder than it looks, because once you paint it and you peel the tape off and everything, you look at it. If there's your eye, then you'll pick it up. It's like, how come I can't see the waver in the line with tape as well as I can see it with paint? Once I peel the tape, now you can see the paint. And I've seen a couple of tricks guys use, and it's drawing a straight line or keeping a long straight line is harder than it seems. A straight line related tangent. Line and a tangent. Okay. Anyway, I was watching a documentary on the test pilot school. I guess it's Nellis or Edwards. Anyway, Edwards Air Force Base. One of the things apparently the test pilot candidates do in like their first exercise, like flight exercises that they do, and they painted a long straight black line out in the desert, perfectly straight. And it's like, I don't know, a mile, 2 miles long. And like one of their warm-up exercises or things they have to do is they have to fly straight down at, like, I don't know what the speed is, say 400 knots at 200 feet, and I guess it's all film. But they literally have to go straight down on speed, on altitude, directly on the course line, whatever it is. I mean, they have to fly a perfectly straight line down that thing. And apparently, a lot of people say, that's actually a heck of a lot harder than it looks, and it's one of the trickiest things they do. Of course, that's according to a TV documentary. But I thought about it. When I fly an ILS, I have to fly a very straight, an instrument landing system, I have to fly a very straight line, and I'm constantly, even the autopilot, if you do it on autopilot, it's kind of, moving around a little bit. Even on a calm day, you just get that much mass move to keep it going in a perfectly straight line. And there's an old joke in aviation. If you can fly across country, stay within 10 feet of altitude, 2 degrees of course, and 5 knots of airspeed the whole way, you're better than an autopilot. And I don't think anyone's ever done that, including an autopilot in the history of aviation. But I don't know if you hear the pitter patter. It's a little drizzle out here, and I got to go to physical therapy in a bit. So, last night we were watching a movie that was, I don't know to tell you what it was because I don't want to trash mouth any movies. It was something we got on TV, and apparently some studio's attempt to make a knockoff of, what was that old teenage vampire movie, Twilight. And after a while I was clearly not enjoying it, but and my wife was like, you don't have to watch this. So I ran off and did that Maxis model shed after dark, and all I have to do is put some banjo music to that. Oh, no, you guys came up with some great ideas for names. So when I get back from physical therapy, I'll either get to work in the shed because I hardly touched the models since the day before yesterday, or I'll start cranking on the video. The thing that's getting me through the current unpleasantness is making these videos and working on the models, because given my physical condition, I can do both pretty easily, and I like doing both. What I don't want it to do is turn into work. So I don't know if I'll keep cranking these out every day. Just depends. I would probably do these because I have coffee every morning. This is so easy to do. The after darks, we'll see. And I don't want to load you guys up. You know, after a while, you start putting so many videos out. People are like, God, does this guy ever shut up? And the answer is yes. I don't talk in my sleep. But anyway, since it's all completely, you know, off the cuff, you never know what you're going to get. Mox's Mockles videos like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. And then I still got about 4 or 5 scripts to rewrite for the companies I'm working on. You guys have been sending a lot of stuff you'd like to see. And some of these companies I never heard of. And folks said, well, if you ever run out of companies, I'm like, man, I didn't know there were that many model companies out there. I don't think we're ever going to run out. But anyway, that's about all we got for this morning, boys and girls. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to another scintillating episode of Cafe Max's Modez. And we will see you guys. Cherish that last will. See you guys later. Oh, quick joke. Somebody said, whatever kind of coffee you drink, it's Max's swill in the house. So no matter what I'm drinking, it's always Maxwell House. See you later.